I see what you did there, Matt. Oh, he's not in here. Good morning, guys. I'm not going to hit you with the good morning, pajama traders. Today, you guys are more than pajama traders. I think we've reached a new level. I think in terms of calling you retail pajamas, let's step it up a little, right? We're a little bit more than that. No longer are we laying in our beds on our mobile devices trading. We've stepped the game up, right? This morning, futures, everything. Asia, Europe, our futures, pre-market action, commodities, Bitcoin, all cryptos, even the Doge, the dollar, everything's up. There's not one thing on this screen that's not green. That's not a good thing. The things that are red are the good greens. There's basically nothing better than waking up on a Monday, or if you've been up all night watching, than to have all this green, right? Now, we went long, continued to go long. So I'm not going to recap everything because we've already recapped it multiple times. But on this day here with the Hanging Man, we did continue to go long without really much hesitation, right? We went from, in this area here, short-term trading due to risk not being well defined with the spot VIX, right? We're going to take a look at that with the dollar breaking out. But as soon as we went into all-time highs, we really changed the tone, right? And it wasn't just our own story being different. It's the whole market story that this time going into all-time highs, it just was different, right? It's different with the dollar moving to the upside, with being risk on, with volatility now dropping after one of the largest spikes we've really ever seen, right? I mean, technically the largest spike that we've ever seen on the spot VIX, and it didn't even matter, besides us changing up our style for a few days, right? And so now when we're going into all-time highs, it feels like more of the same of over here, right? Not so much of a retail calling tops anymore, right? Because over in these areas, we've had retail calling tops, right? And being wrong most of the time until there was a top, right? And they got game theoried out of their positions. Over here, though, we don't feel like that because we're really in this new level of supply over here on this trend that is actually being held up by a new force, which is instead of tech. So tech here, right? Tech here continues to do its thing, and that's what was driving all of this. Now the story is again through value and through retracement. This trend here has been the story, and that's actually what we're actually holding up the baseline a lot better through this trend, because look at this trend through here since November, right? Since the election, no more Trumper, and then the Georgia runoff. Ever since these events have taken place, look at value over here, right? These are all the tickers that were beat to shit, never could retrace, and now have propelled past that level, and with some of them being behind still, right? We have a lot of tickers that still have 50, 60% to go back to their February high of 2020, which is going to continue this rally because through value alone, they're going to come back, right? They're going to come back through some sort of retracement, and due to that, it's hard to see this stopping with the Fed $120 billion a month continuing to pump liquidity, with it looks like the $1.9 trillion stimulus plan coming through, and another plan should be coming on top of that later in the year. There's really nothing that should be stopping us. And so besides these times that when we have this consolidation and we change up what we need to do that during that time, the fact or the thought of trying to change up what we're doing in sort of a bullish bias of sort of, you guys saw, I think Mobsky posted it on Friday or whatever, the weekend, like the Jared dude that posts from whatever the fuck his stupid little newsletter is, that he like sold all his stuff. Like that's too extreme, right? That's too extreme. Guess what? We sold everything on that Monday of the week before, right? But it wasn't to then go into this idea that we're never going to be going long. It was a short-term idea that we took everything off, right? We took all profits. The market went down 5% in 4 days, and then we bought everything again down there at the bottom. That type of style is what we do, because we have the ability to be agile and nimble. We're nimble like that, right? But the idea that you're somehow going to remove yourself from this action, that idea is crazier than the idea that this is not how it should be trading, right? Yes, it is ridiculous that we are trading well past all-time highs. There is certainly a disconnect, and that's crazy. But you know what's more crazy? Not being a part of it. That's the reality. And so if anyone, you see people posting shit that, oh, we're in a bubble, we shouldn't be in it. Yes, you're right. But guess what? You're the crazy one who is acting like you can't be a part of this. You ride this until there's nothing else to ride from it, because we've seen time and time again that you can exit these trades and it's worth the risk. It's worth the risk every time. There's been no time that we haven't been able to protect ourselves. And the idea that we should not be trading towards the long side continuously until that time comes that we can't anymore and we'll trade it to the downside is ridiculous. And so again, those bubble discussions are going to keep coming back. Be careful. Be careful with those. DXY, the dollar, we are still underneath this level here. So we had a bit of a breakdown from Friday, but we're trading still to an elevated side, but we're calling this more risk on. Risk on dollar. This is changing into dollar for U.S. equities, right? And so we feel fine with this. I've called it a risk on dollar. I think it's a good way to look at it. If there was any doubt, I would say that the numbers this morning, when you look at futures, I have basically proven the point that all of this action here was risk on dollar. Nothing to really worry about. It's going to be interesting when we come into this trend line here. We'll see what that looks like. And here's volatility, right? Turning over. You would have saw me. I put on the short-term patterns. You got VIX, VXX, UVIXI, VIXI. I posted those all on there because of their candles being a little bit, bit of a bullish candle, right? Bit of a bullish gravestone down here, right? This type of action, you're going to have volatility come back a little bit. And again, what I like to do is use this as a complementary trade, right? Use it as a complementary trade. So again, you're not hedging yourself when you're entering these positions, right? So it's the hedge word, I think, gets fumbled around a little bit too much in terms of what it's really doing. This trade, if you're taking this, is protecting you against the fact that the spot VIX itself is not actually trading towards the upside when there's bids in the market. So volatility itself is more correlated right now towards the downside, and it has been for a while. Volatility itself, though, just means a move one way or the other. So if there's going to be a big move to the upside, this should be elevated, right? But right now it's not. And so that's why we're actually using it as you could throw in the hedge word, but it's really not, because all we're really doing is using this to protect risk when we're pushing a long position. So that during those times when we're pushing a position over a week, let's say, and during that week, let's say one day the price is up 3% and the next day it's down 1%. During that 1% down day, usually volatility is going to be higher. And so what happens is that the gains you get from here, yes, it's hedging and protecting that downside, but it's actually a part of the trade. It's a part of the trade because the next move will actually be larger, and it should push this as well. And so a lot of the times you'll see these actually move together. So we buy when the VIX is high and we sell when it's low, right? These ideas that we use with volatility, buying on fear, a lot of this is not hedging because we're not selling when the volatility is high, right? So it would be counteracting. We use it sort of to build on a portfolio, and because no one really goes long vol because everyone shorts volatility. Everyone's been short vol, gamma, correlation, everything for a long time, since 2008, and there's a reason why we can take advantage of this every single time. And I've talked a lot about the short positions that get done on volatility are very similar to the yields you get on treasuries. And now that treasuries are getting a little bit more demand, looking better on the yield side, you're going to see even more of that come through here, where that short actually helps you get a nice long position through here. Again, sort of a comparable trade to add to really any long position. There's really no reason not to. All right, one more thing to look at. Let's get through some pre-market action. Is McKee's in here? He's not in here. McKee's is OCGN play. We are opening at 887. Let's see how many How much do we get so far? We put 1,000 in at 345. Let's see, 891. 173% in 4 days. Nice job, McKeesus. So, again, once McKeesus tells us to get out of this position, let's hope he doesn't lose it all. We're doing pretty good. So, decent. We're going to be, 3,000-4,000 or something, it looks like, in terms of profit, right? We'll see what he says, but it's up to him. He's got the reins for right now. Going further through the list, we have some really nice pre-market action here. Again, sort of a continuation from what we saw from Friday. I mean, not that it was to be expected big pre-market numbers, but I did talk about Asia being on the heavier open side, right? Being pretty bullish. Again, if you didn't see the numbers, Hang Seng was a little bit break even, because again, what are we doing right now? When the volatility is low, no one goes into tech, right? So there really wasn't much tech numbers here. And if you actually look at the pre-market numbers here, Russell 2000 in value was doing a lot better than NASDAQ, right? So again, similar thing. This Vero position is really interesting. Again, just sort of shows the holding ability through something like this. This is at 13.5 right now. Back up into here. That's an interesting position. The Sava position today should be a lot of fun. I think I saw somebody post something in there. I didn't really see what it was. This is at 52. This should get interesting as well. It's even hard to look at the chart because of the action there. LX continues. This is up 13%. This trade gets really interesting. We've been talking about it. We took the trade from down here. I reposted a new idea on it. This is opening at 1128. This is rate on the supply. Shit's gonna get pretty wild over here. You've got 3 layers of supply coming through here, converging, and we talk about it a lot. When you have all the supply converging in one area, price wants to gravitate there and then also break through it, right? We always watch price break through this. Today, it's going to be interesting to see, because you don't usually gap into it. Usually you gap over it. This is actually getting stuck right within the level, and this is probably due to the fact that you don't get much pre-market action on this ticker. I don't think I've ever seen any pre-market action here. So this is going to get a little tight at open. So a lot of decisions will be made. If you're in this position, then you're basically holding on and trying to figure out how exactly is the timing going to work here, because this could take a day that it's going to sit in the supply before it moves, and you might see a lot of different action going on there. You got to be careful not to get pushed out of that position due to the fact that you've got enough support underneath you, right? So be careful through there. TDC opening up 10% as well. We talked about the trend line rejection there on Friday. That's interesting. Don't really care about these. AVXL continuing, don't care. OSTK is an interesting one. We talked a lot about you've got to get into this position or you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. So you've got time. You've got time, because we've talked about looking for some serious numbers on this chart. Looking for some serious numbers. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want to be left behind, because over here the same thing happened and everyone got left behind and everyone joked when it was going up and up, right? You don't want to be in the part where you're now becoming a retail momentum chasing trader, right? Be a capture side trader and sell to the retail when it's your time, right? Whether you're going to do short terms and you sell every week and you sell to the chasers, whatever it is, don't be one of the chasers. GME looks like we're going to get some more action. I don't think there's any other positions we need to look at. Blink, again, we took the Blink trade. This is continuing to look better and better. Again, we've switched from short term to longer term. We want to be pushing positions longer than we did last week. Let's continue to look to transition. There's a lot of positions that we've talked about transitioning. I'm going to talk a little bit more about transitioning. I actually had a lot of you message me over the weekend about transitions. There's like 4 or 5 of you in here. You guys know what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, because in terms of switching from short-term mentality to long-term, we might have to go back and forth quite a bit, right? And so being able to go from, let's say right now, February monthlies to March monthlies to longer when the time comes is important to be able to handle that transition and understand what exactly you're doing. So we're going to go over that a little bit more. But again, on the EV side, clean energy, those are longer terms, right? We know the value comes later not even just in the fact that fundamentally, obviously these companies are going to be better. It's also in terms of price. You know it's going to be a little bit longer dated, right? It's almost futures trading. So we're going to continue to push this on a longer term scale. Think about the price moves we've captured on this chart. You don't need to overtrade this, right? You don't need to overtrade it. We trade the breakouts, but you also have chances to just push a position over a long term. And I think the best example, this could be the last point until we look at some other stuff, it would be the Z chart, right? That this trend, all you had to do was push it. All you had to do is push it over a longer term, like we sort of projected, and you would have been fine, right? So sometimes, again, scalping through an entire trend is not the best. Now, obviously through Z, we've had to just take breakouts, and when there's a long consolidation, you can't be in that position. But again, there are chances where you can hold through some consolidations over a week because you have a long-term position, which is the true profit position over just taking like a trade every few days, right? So, something to keep in mind. Now, we have to talk about this because obviously this is sort of a new sort of situation that we have not really seen before. So Bitcoin, Tesla just put in 1.5 billion into Bitcoin and actually announced it, right? Just came out and said that we've invested 1.5 billion into Bitcoin and we may be accepting Bitcoin orders. All right, a few things we need to talk about here. Elon Musk has way too much power over what people are fucking investing in the stock market. I don't think there's, besides Powell, but maybe even more than Powell. Apparently, Elon is able to move markets. Like he straight up just says a ticker name, and it will open up 10% higher, right? Bitcoin, he says he's investing. They may not have even invested it yet. Maybe they already invested it like months ago, right? I mean, some of this shit is just it's becoming like, you know what it almost feels like? It's like when you're making fun of somebody that doesn't actually know something, and they want to be involved, and they're like trying to learn it, and so you're making fun of them without them knowing you're making fun of them. That's what it feels like Elon's doing, right? With all the Dogecoin stuff, you know he knows it's a meme. That Dogecoin was made because it is a meme, right? That was the only reason. The stuff he's like doing with pushing that, you have to think that some of this is obviously just a joke, and now he's using his power through Tesla to 1.5 billion is nothing. Tesla has how many billions on hand with cash? They're one of the most cash rich. They don't even have enough supply to build the cars, right? They have more demand. They have like 100 times more demand than supply, right? Because they can't even make enough cars in time. They take orders 10 years before they make the car. They've got enough cash on hand to do whatever the fuck they want. So, yeah, I mean, I have no idea what to make of it. I don't know if that the thing to think about is, does this actually make other companies now want to come out and say that and do that as well? Like, Tesla is such a weird spot because of the way it's built. It's sort of like Facebook, in that Zuckerberg has just full control. Like, it just straight up full control, does whatever the fuck he wants. So I'm not really sure what it entails, because if Tesla is taking Bitcoin, then does everyone else just start to go, okay, Bitcoin is a real thing? We can all accept Bitcoin now, like we were doing like a few years ago, right? Oh yeah, pay for your college tuition with Bitcoin. And like now all the students are like, well, shit, man, I wish I didn't pay for tuition with Bitcoin. I could have just been a millionaire and said fuck college. But I mean, either way, this price action is great. We've talked about sort of what we're looking for Bitcoin, 100,000 by the end of this year. What trajectory are we on now? I talked about this sort of continuation triangle we were looking at. It looks like we're going to climb back into this trend based on what we've seen. But these events, this is the first time we've seen a news event actually affect Bitcoin. So this is where things get a little hairy, and why we should bring it up a little, because everything that we've talked about so far with Bitcoin is completely supply and demand oriented. That stock to flow model that I've talked about, the idea of appreciation through the fact that there's limited supply, demand is through sort of trending, increasing sort of in a nominal fashion. It doesn't really take much to continue it. What exactly does this mean for timelines for people that actually actively trade it, for new institutions to invest. We know there's massive institution sort of a presence in here. We've seen Goldman came out last week and said that this isn't sustainable, this type of shit, but they're long on it. These type of things you're getting a lot more talk that is going to affect prices here. What does this do with other cryptos? Or those you like Ethereum, all those other ones, Dogecoin, this type of shit? You're getting into territory where, again, we've already talked about sort of the regulatory body. We've seen Yellen came out. I didn't think Yellen would come out and say that we might need to do some regulations on cryptos, but she did say it. If you have one person that can affect a fucking market, Bitcoin's a massive market, right? He should not be able to move this price. There's zero reason why he should be able to move this price, and even with 1.5 billion invested, shouldn't move it at all. So this is where you're going to get comments from Powell, from Yellen, on what the fuck is going on here. We got to keep this in mind now. We didn't really need to care about news and stuff before about this, but we're going to now because it's really going to probably change up the timeline on some of these things, and especially if we get back on this trajectory. This right here is 100,000 by March 15th. That trend line there that we were on. If we get back to there, those of you that are in a long position as well, this becomes a little. How do we handle this? How do we handle this position, right? If you have a significant position, you can't. It's not the same as with equities where we go, okay, let me get out here and then I'll enter back down here on a next breakout. This is again a long position that goes over a year or so. It's going to get difficult. I think we're going to need to be a little bit more sensitive, again, due to the fact that you're going to have big moves both ways, and we need to keep in mind some regulatory bodies that might come through and have something to say, right? We'll need to see. I think the next big thing is with the ECB's digital currency, what that means, if it has anything to do with crypto, whether it uses blockchain or not, that might be the next thing, but some crazy stuff, some really interesting stuff. Let me get off the log scale here. All right, let's get this going. Let's load this up. Don't need that. Charts I posted just last night from last Friday are all pretty interesting, I would say. Maybe let's just look at them real quick. So some of these charts are sort of yes-no trades, right? Yes-no trades. Is OI going to push through this 1373? If it's above, we buy it, right? Let me keep this open. Right now, it's just sitting on the trend line here. This is a yes-no trade. Above the supply, buy it. ARMX, is it on top of this 520? No? Then don't buy it, right? So again, yes-no trades, a lot easier. We keep it simple. Take something complex, simplify it into an easy decision, whether or not you should be buying it. Again, if it's on top of the level, great, you've got support. If not, then don't touch it, right? Don't screw around with it. Same thing here, 60. 984, is it above 984? Great, you can buy it, right? Keeping it simple with some of the new additions is going to be important for going further because we have a lot of positions already that need to keep getting transitions. DXI I posted as well because we went long home builders last week. DXI is, of course, the individual ticker instead of an ETF that you can go long on. So I wanted to make sure I posted this because, again, we did go long home builders again. This has sort of been back and forth, but we should be looking for the long side. So keep this chart in mind if you have liquidity problems on the others. SUZ, same thing. Yes, no trade above 1248. Great, buy it. That's it, right? Keeping it simple. FWNK, same thing. I think we posted this chart back over here. I don't think we actually ended up trading it. Can't exactly remember. I think it was over here, one of these candles. Same thing over here. Is it through the supply? Great, you can trade it. AGTC, same thing, right? Now, again, if it pulls back into the trend line, then you're buying support. We're still support buying, of course. But interesting chart. I think that actually this chart is a really pretty chart to look at. Just taking a look at sort of the price action through here. It's almost, if there was such thing as a quad bottom, I would call it that. But it's, I don't think there's anything such as a quad bottom. So triple bottom looks great. These type of charts, again, keep it simple, keep the difficulty down. I think it's important to realize strengths and weaknesses, what you can and cannot do. And sometimes, when you get up to too many positions, it becomes too much to manage, and it's just difficult, right? You don't want difficult trades. If it's not that you're taking an easy trade and it's like, okay, well, it's an easy trade, so easy money. It's not that, but it's when you're managing a lot of different positions, when you're trying to now go long, some of those short-term gains that you want to capture, if you're trying to trade short-term and get some increased sort of cash flow, extra risk involved, then you want trades that have that gain potential but are easy to enter and exit. Sometimes you're working too hard trying to figure out what exactly should I be doing here. Those charts, there's a one question you ask yourself, is it above the level? Okay, then I'll buy it. That's it. So again, keep it simple. Keep it simple. You shouldn't have to be working yourself up and fucking asking your mom, should I be doing this? Asking me, hey man, should I exit this position? If you have to ask me whether you should exit something or not, then you're probably in the wrong trade. You're probably in the wrong thing because you've got no clue what you're doing, right? That's probably a bad sign. If you're like asking somebody else in chat, hey man, I saw you entered this position. What should we do? Then you should probably sell it. Probably not a good sign. One other thing to mention, a lot of money coming back into treasuries again this week, starting Monday off. We know that leads to value side. In terms of flows, keep in mind that flow of increased yields on treasuries means more value. So again, we know which angle we're taking. We're not going to leave tech completely behind. We're obviously in some mega caps themselves, but we're going to be careful in terms of our thinking of, oh yeah, we have so much potential with tech. We know that this is just following the leader, right? Just following the leader. Don't get caught up. Again, you want to go trade something like this. Does that look good? Does this look good? Probably not. Probably doesn't look good at all. So what's it opening at? Facebook's opening lower. So again, short Facebook, always. The others look a little bit better. I've talked about Microsoft looking very good. I think, this type of trade, you might have some different ideas here, but, again. And the other thing, again, Ford and GM, we're treating as EVs now. Ford and GM are part of the EV discussion. Keep those trades going long, right? That's a great trend you got there. Keep those up. So we'll see. Again, we're going to be we're in a lot of long positions right now. We're going to be just feeling out the morning. We're not looking to do anything crazy here. We want to see what the market comes up with this morning. That's it, right? In terms of new positions to add, you know how to add new positions, right? If you're not in positions, well, you know how to go long, right? If we're going bid, then okay, you find some areas that are coming to breakouts. Don't buy on something that's already been traded to the upside. Let's keep it rules-based, simple. Keep the difficulty down. See if we're bid, see if we're selling. Play it as we see it. Just react to price. You don't need to make a miracle happen, right? If it's there in front of you, then take the trade. Don't watch price, right? This week, it should be straightforward with trends, right? We're on a trend. We're in all-time highs across the market. There should be nothing difficult about what we're doing, other than the fact if it's there or not. If it's not there, then it's not there, right? So don't force something to happen. Let's see. Oh, let me load up the watch list here for you guys. Hold on. Okay. We'll see if McKees' OCGN continues here for us. You let us know when we're pulling the trigger on that one. I think we're up 173%. 1,000 to, we'll see. All right, let's see what we got here. Give me 1 second, guys. What? Oh, hold on. That first 100% took a bit, but that second, nice. Good job. Okay, we've got, let's see. Nothing surprising yet. We're holding this value up here. We didn't really move up much. It's not like we have anything to sell from. I mean, we are up 1% on value, but this usually holds pretty well. This is probably going to be one of your 3-candle, your 15-minute candle doji that leads towards the upside. Sort of this rollover, right? Now, we've seen some sort of different things here, like travel, for instance, took some profit in pre-market, but we'll see how that gets bid from the start. That should be interesting for our long positions. You can see that it's going bid right now. So for instance, I can see American over here, right? This sort of action over here. We'll see how these things sort of develop over the week. That bio bet from last week going over the weekend, I think was definitely the right choice here. People getting a little bit of that extra risk. We know it's retail loves bio, right? That extra risk from retail. You have buyers. LX continuing, that's at 11 now. See, X, nice bet on X as well. This bet over the last weekend, look at that candle right now, though. It's an interesting candle. We obviously took this a new bet on X. Not even, I shouldn't say bet. We took a long-term trade on X over here, on that doji down here. This trade, if it gets going, you're going to be putting a lot of points on. I wouldn't miss out on something like this. This support buy, even if you weren't in a few days ago, that's a trade to be taking for sure. You can't leave points on the table like that. That's not okay. In terms of candles here, I mean some of this is not the greatest price action. This almost looks like make or break getting into the channel on the S&P here. So I would really like to see some bid come through. You're going to need tech to help. So in terms of where we are, we'll see how everyone reacts, but it's hard to say. I think you're gonna need a little help. So we're gonna need to see some help from the big boys over here. It's hard though because again you're low volatility. No one really wants to go into mega caps. Let's see. YY up 12%. We are seeing some of the meme tickers get a little bit of action. OSTK is holding. Squaring PayPal looking very good. Yeah, JJR mentions NVIDIA, KC. Obviously, we've been very bullish on the KC chart. Semiconductors as well. Minus AMD. So show the NVIDIA chart here. That bid start here. Very good look. Very good look. Let's see. You got these levels up here. Look for something like that to break. Let's see how AMD is doing here. AMD actually looks decent enough down here. Maybe can take a couple extra semiconductor trades on NVIDIA and AMD besides our TSM and UMC positions, right? UMC looking very good. So I think again, we were still in the right positions going into TSM and UMC there, but it looks like those other semis are coming as well. Which again, that's our next sort of most bullish position to be in, semis. So, and again, we've grouped solar with that space because they trade almost the exact same way. You can see again the sun power position, right? There was no reason not to take that trade, right? There was no reason not to take that trade when we took it. So again, that this break is coming and that it's a violent move. That's what we look for, is this volatility that we've talked a lot about, these charts that have sort of put the points on aggressively and rolled over into an aggressive consolidation. And we know that they're not consolidating these moves. They're not. This isn't going to sit here and and bounce around for a little while. I mean, it may, but the likelihood is pretty low considering what we've seen in the market. So, we're seeing a lot. Vero, it's continuing here. Sava's continuing. Should be putting some points on there. I think this YY chart, again, continues. LX, sitting in the supply. Again, this trade is going to get interesting with all the supply up here. Watch that carefully. XPI continues. I'm not sure when we're getting out of that. 80AP, again, all the bio bets from last week. Let's see, how's OSTK holding here? It's holding the level. What's it look like with Zoom here? Zoom, again, being so tech heavy, you can see the take prop from yesterday. I mean from Friday. I wouldn't be getting shaken out of that position either. That's just, again, tech related woes. Let's see. So again, mostly what we've seen from before, value, that extra bio play that we added looking good. Nothing really standing out so far. Again, there's your doji right there. Your 15-minute doji, which is pretty expected. We talk about this look a lot. That means we're holding value. Shouldn't be losing anything here. So you can sort of see that, which is good. That's a sign, that's sort of like a pattern we look for with that first 15 minutes or so of action, that you're holding a level. This is a 1% move, right? 1% gap. If you see it hold, then it's holding, right? The action will come from the start. It doesn't sneak up on you. If it comes at 10 o'clock, then we know that's a different thing if take profit happens from there, right? Completely different situation. So average is looking good. PRTS continues. I don't see anything that we need to. Let's look on the sell side. I don't see anything that we need to manage. Let's see. See if I can give some ideas here for some of these. I don't think you need to do anything with these positions. If you're in, these are Chinese tickers that we're not in. Pen, for instance, you don't need to do anything, right? So everything on the sell side is completely fine, right? All of these positions you continue to hold and push. I think win here is another example. I'm going to use this as a transition idea. Chris there at the top of the pit asked about the win trade here in terms of transitioning it. So if you were in this trade from that Thursday, sold it Friday on sort of the pullback from the top, and then transitioned into new contracts, that's what I think a lot of people did. And we took the bet for this week. Pretty sure the price point was still better to take it on Friday than here at open. But sometimes it's just you're putting a risk trade on over the weekend, right? This was just a trade to put risk on over the weekend. That was the whole idea. And so, again, sometimes you're opening higher, sometimes you're opening lower. It doesn't change the overall story of it, right? So we'll see how that goes. Glizzy mentioned in the old Tesla 900 weeklies being bought. That's what we're in. So not weeklies, but we are in the Niners. This looks pretty good. There's a lot of supply here. I mean, obviously, this is a little bit of a sketch with the trend lines in here, but you certainly have some ideas here. And we know that this trend line from the inbound is certainly strong. And so we'll see how this develops. Again, what is sort of the overall push in terms of Tesla? Is it EV, tech, the S&P with value? What is the whole story here? It's hard to tell from all this movement, right? It's been a lot of consolidating, a lot of big moves that, I don't know, it does feel a little different. So we're still trying to learn what exactly price is doing here on this chart. Doesn't mean we're not going to take trades and trade it to the upside, but it certainly needs a little bit more, I don't know, data, I guess, in terms of understanding. Let's see, retail stores, MGM continuing its move. Z continues its move. Of course, we took the Z trade. Again, look at that thing go, right? That's back into the OG channel, right? That's the trend. That is the trend, right? Not the. So that looks great up there. Not the greatest candle. So we'll see how that develops over today. Let's see, CrowdStrike continuing, took that trade back over here. TMHC, let's see, going through that trend line. Talked about this. We were looking for that trend line to come in. We're going through. That should get interesting over here. Important to keep in mind those trend lines. Free Willy, we obviously took this trade. We're looking pretty damn good. Coming through the trend line here at 35.25. We'll see how that looks. But again, that's our meme play. We created that meme. No one can take that from us. SPE, looking a little flashy here. That's a pretty clear break. We've been talking about this. We drew this back here on this candle, and then we bounced down on it. So we sort of confirmed that consolidation. Excuse me. That looks pretty good over there. Looking pretty good. Let's see, is there anything else that sticks out? I'm not really seeing any breakouts or anything like that. I'm seeing a lot of mixed. Blink is obviously going, continuing that move. That got a lot of help, of course. OCGN does continue. PRTS again continues. This is we've talked about this trade a lot, and sort of this. It's such a weird sort of. It's not even a sector, but this whole cars, car parts, car rentals thing that we've been doing for like a year now. It feels like we've been doing this for like a year now. These trades have offered such good breakouts. I'm not really sure why they're all so similar, but those are great trades. TTM, little bit similar. This trade has turned into a very nice trade. Let's see. I think there's a few others that are similar. They're not here at the top of the list for now. Semis do continue. BCLI getting pretty tight in there. That could be making another big move. Pot stocks continue. KC, of course, mentioned. Coming to the top trend line, we'll see. All right. Very nice. ELY continues. I'm stuck in my damn throat. Net. Obviously, we got a lot of points from Net on Friday, right? Talked about that. That's, again, I think I said that was one of those trades that you can't miss. If you guys remember from Friday, I was like, you can't. As soon as I started moving Friday morning, I was like, you can't miss this trade, guys. And then I think everyone was like, oh, look, Net's moving. Yeah. Exactly. Net, exactly. All right. Let's bring it over to the average. Here's our 15-minute candle, how it's going to finish. It's going to finish a little bit more bullish, a little bit more bid on that 15. That's certainly good. Be curious if we can get up to the trend line today. Let's see. Going to add a little bit. There, very nice, guys. Good job. Net. I think we'll add a little bit longer dates. Add a little bit more to the top. Let's see. Where's the best place to put some extra money? Just push out a little bit further. Anything I have February's on still that I'm pushing, I'm going to add Marches on top of those for when the likely take profit comes later today or tomorrow. Go further out. March, April. Getting a lot of action through here. EQ continues. Again, a lot of the more recent breakouts I've said, I've continued to say they're a lot more bullish. So again, all the charts I have right now, in terms of active tickers, I think we have about 300 or so active patterns right now. But the most recent ones from the last week and a half, 2 weeks are certainly the most bullish, right? I've been talking about that. That's because we went through that from 2 weeks ago, that consolidation. And so everything that broke out from there has been significantly more bullish, right? Because instead of having the prior breakouts that then got consolidated just due to market, all of these moves that are recent from the breakouts have been significantly have just had significantly larger moves, right, in terms of velocity, the gamma related side to them. Look at that move there on WMK. Again, this type of move, I mean, you have to be able to push through. You have to be able to push through the price action here, right? You can't be getting shaken out of these type of positions. We'll see how that reacts. The trend line comes in at about 39.5. We'll see how that reacts. Let's see. APHA really controlling that channel. That looks like we're going to be hitting that target a little early. FLNT as well. I mean, this type of trade, again, just solidifies the breakout aspect of trading, right? The breakout comes, you take the trade. Ecto says he exited that whack G Pro 9.5. Let's take a look at the old Game Pro, G Pro. Yeah, I don't know what's being thought over there, but you definitely need to wait for 8. Definitely need to wait for 8. I know, I'm joking. You dumbass. Yeah, apparently, did anyone else really? Somebody go find the chat. Somebody go link the chat. Somebody go link the chat. Somebody go link the chat and tell me, did I say, yep. No, I wasn't bullshitting. I said we're entering at 8. I say, does anyone want to get into GoPro with me? And Ecto goes, which one? And I was like, I'd like to get from 9 to 10. And he goes, I just bought it. I didn't even say I bought it yet. The dude went in 2 minutes later. I'm unhinged. Nice. This is $8 trade. Limit buy should be down at $8. There's almost no reason not to. Down at $8, I would say. F-Wonk is through, by the way. That resistance that JJR mentioned a few minutes ago. This is through. In terms of this move, it's hard to expect, but if you look over here, this December candle is about 5%. It went through both supplies. I would say that you've got a easily over a 50% chance that you reach the next level today. Due to the way the zone works in here, I would say you're certainly going to get through that level, so keep that in mind for that trade. Because you might get some resistance there as well, but it's likely actually pushing through the resistance, not rejecting. So there's a lot of ideas there. Let's see. Let's take a look at the Uber and Lyft trades. Continuing, that looks pretty decent. Holding. That looks a little better. Okay, nice. Let's see. Those look good. Airlines in general looking good. Oops. Nice. Very good. Save is our most bullish airline so far. That is looking great. So again, pushing that position, I talked about it. You can't take profit on that candle there, right? You just can't do it. Looking very good. Let's see. Oh yeah, I mentioned earlier, PayPal on Square Inc. SQ is coming back into the trend, right? Coming back to this trend. I transposed this trend, but we've talked about a lot. You transpose the trend because new supply. This is coming back into this channel here. These charts are certainly interesting due to the way that we've talked about this. No true consolidation on some of these charts. Just pivoting and reversing, right? Look at that. I mean, how many times do you see a chart look like that? This candle down there being the decision maker. I mean, they're interesting, right? It takes a little while to get in there, but these charts certainly are interesting. PayPal we've obviously done very well on so far. A little bit easier than SQ, of course. I mentioned the MJ again. Pot stocks again. These are long trades. They're long trades. You can't get shaken out of. The whole idea of all these charts that we entered from back in November, right? This isn't a new thing, right? It's not a new thing. Since November, when we went all in on everything that day after the presidential election on the 4th, these charts have not changed. Nothing's changed, right? JJR with some nice call outs here. Tan sitting right at that resistance level. In terms of taking that trade, I mean, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen there? PCB, good call out, very similar. That's a bio. Death Boat is working. It's certainly working. Again, we're looking for travel to continue, and we've talked about it a lot. There's a lot of points to be made here. There's so many points to be made here. Do not cut your legs off. Talked about it a lot on Friday. Don't cut your legs off if you're taking these trades because, again, you're not looking for a few points. You're looking for all of them, right? You're not here to capture a few. You're catching the whole damn thing. So if you're doing February monthlies, that can't be your whole position. You can get for instance, from this trade down here, yes, February monthlies or something to capture a short-term gain, and you can even do it now, but you should be sort of heavier on the longer term because you want to be pushing it longer, right? You want to get the actual value out of it. Or else you have to take profit and enter new ones, and then your average sucks ass because you're buying 20% higher. Doesn't even make sense. If you don't have the capital to do it, well then buy the longer term, right? Buy the longer term. Let's see here. Price action is similar. Energy is continuing to look good. It's a weird trade there. PRTS continues. The bios do continue. This APHA chart is getting interesting. I'm trying to think how likely are to get to that next trend line. NWK is going through this top trend line. Again, once it gets through there, new chart. Completely new chart. Going to be trading up above that supply. We don't have much data to go off of here in terms of what's going to go on up there. So that's definitely going to get interesting. Let's see. McKee's is OCGN. We're at 1382. Let's see what this move is. That's 300%. Looks like he keeps going in and out. Looks like he's busy crying himself in bed over his nice trade here. It's a great start to the Unrefusables fund. That's what? It's a nice $3,000 profit right there. Small gains. Started off. Let's see. There's a lot going on here. Let's see. Let's bring it back to the average. It's great direction there so far. That looks like gravitation to the supply. There's a lot that can happen here. I think we should certainly be ready for it. If you break this top trend line, guys, then we're gone. We're absolutely gone unless we're getting the only reason why we wouldn't be gone, and I'm talking like putting significant points on, like this would be a breakout that's going to lead to significantly more points, like another 10% on top here. The only reason why that would not be the case is if we're actually blowing off the top and doing like some sort of game theory overextension where institutions are purposely pushing through to then just take profit on everything. We'll be able to see that coming if it's happening because we've had 2 times in the last year that we've seen it actually happen purposely. We knew that institutions were doing it while it was happening, letting retail go bid, and during that laying the groundwork for exiting the position. We saw that on 2 Mondays ago, right? 2 weeks ago when we took all the profit before that happened. We know when it's coming, so we're going to keep this in mind. It's all about how quickly it moves through there and whether or not the whole market's doing it, right? If it's only in one area and then the others catch up, then that's certainly very bullish and looks great. So when we look at this, if this blows through the top here, you're going to put a significant amount of points on. It all comes down to how the rest of these trade. If some of the big boys like tech and stuff start to look a little finicky, like it looks like, oh, okay, you're losing some liquidity over there, then we'll know for sure. So we're going to keep these in mind because, again, people get, traders get a little, little antsy. They might jump the gun. There might be some serious game theory out there going on. We don't really know. I've talked about it already, that volatility is too low. This type of thing, when there's actually more volatility than there is, we know keep this in mind, we know there are large put positions out there with significant IVs on them. So keep this all in mind in terms of the way in which transitions are going to happen. You want to ride through everything. You want to ride through everything and understand that we do have a different level of risk, right? And the only thing here is that, again, if we need to take profit on a move, it's going to make itself clear. If it's the same with buying. If it's not obvious to buy, then we don't buy. If it's not obvious to sell, we don't sell. So again, don't change up anything, but this move here looks violent. That's going for sure. So here, give me 1 sec. Let me call somebody. All right. So we got algos going. Algos over here in volatility. I don't know if that's because they're bored. Algos are certainly buying volatility right now from that discussion. So let's take a look. That means a lot more bid to come through before anything else. Looks like we're going to be putting some points on here. Interested to see what we get for reaction up at this trend line. Excuse me. That's a lot of bid coming. Let's see. Let's take a look at the books. I mean, we're long. We're capturing. We are certainly capturing. Let's see here. Nothing towards tech. Still climbing. Okay. Let's see. Airlines continue. Talked about how we did have some of these laggers, right? They're going to catch up, right? They will catch up. So, for instance, UAL, I think Brian mentioned, why is the UAL behind? It's just catching up, right? In terms of how quickly these things happen, it certainly should be interesting because we've had some serious moves on some of these other airlines. JetBlue was getting bearish, and let's move again. It reached its target. So some of these trades have been, I think some of these, the reason I bring this up a lot, I think these are some of the best trades that have been out there. These are trades that are so far behind that if you're able to push this over a week or so, you're talking about significant gains on very little risk. There's almost no risk involved in some of these trades. Even if you open lower, there's just almost no risk. Faro continues, coming up the trend line again. We've done this trend line dance before. Done it before. Let's see what happens up here. Let's see. CGen at that 1382, waiting for that to go through. CCJ, trend line comes in at 1575. Blink, I'm looking for a little bit more velocity come through here. Maybe it's just a little bit of early consolidation. Let's see if that gets through. A10, also PPC. This move getting pretty violent. This trend line comes in at 1166, 65, something like that. You're looking for this similar sort of move. And I mean, again, these trend line breaks really turn them into new charts, so should certainly be interesting. PPC, that's a big move. That move through SQ now is getting pretty violent. That could certainly... The trend line comes in at about 300. It's only at 255 right now, but let's be honest. With these, some of the price action going on could get interesting. Neo continued to tighten, and we talked about this. This is basically the last candle in terms of the full tightening. This is about the last point before the apex of that, so should be popping out. I'm actually a little bit surprised that Chinese tickers did not open up as high as their market traded. I mean, of course, Hang Seng was like break even, but which is what most of them trade on. But let's see, INSG going. INFN looks like it's going to be hitting that 1064 here today. RR, I talked about that move through this level of supply here. This type of trade is important. Again, when you've got converging supply and also all of the supply, this is a good example of price wants to move through it, right? Price wants to go through. Here it is now in terms of the new channel, the previous channel, trading within. That looks like it's going as well. Again, we made a lot of bio bets. This kind of volatility adds to significant moves both ways, right? HMHC, very close to making a move. It looks like is it actually getting stuck on the supply? No, it's actually through. That looks very good. Plan. Obviously, we've continued this position. There's no reason to ever get out of that. I mean, no reason. DocuSign, again, I've been bullish on it since over here. Again, I have this very long diamond. I'm not going to draw it, but we're looking for the short term. If this breaks through here, then we'll be able to post a pattern on there. So watch out for that chart. Put a new target on there. DHI getting close. That's very close. Might be enough to start getting ready for that. Best Buy, retail stores, again, retail stores been doing significantly well. MGNI thoughts. Let's see, MGNI continuing its move. That's a great move from Friday's gap. That's certainly holding and continuing a trend. You can see the trend that it's on through here, right? Continuing that move. I mean, significant rally. And again, this is actually the chart that I've had the most points on this chart over any chart. I'm pretty sure this is actually the largest percent. The largest. That's 856%. I mean, besides Blink, but Blink doesn't really. I don't know if Blink really counts. I mean, again, this is probably my favorite chart. I've talked about it a lot. Blink, I mean, I really don't think Blink counts because it came from Pennyland. So maybe if you consider it from here, this chart from in November, that's a little bit better, but we were obviously already trading it. We were trading it back in here, but I think other than that, MGNI is the largest percent we've gotten. EXPI continues. I mean, again, this chart, you can't get out of this chart, right? You cannot exit out of this chart. You've just been pushing that long position for forever now. Forever. Let's see. What is Walmart getting mentioned for? Is Walmart actually doing anything or what? Let's see. Hard to say. I think you got to break this trend line here. One of those charts that, again, sort of they come through these consolidations, and then it's just bearish overall, right? It's just bearish overall. Look at these consolidations that happen. It turns into sort of further consolidation for whatever reason. Consolidate the consolidation, right? Don't like charts that are like that. Really do not like charts like that. INSG does look like it's getting the points. SBLK continues as well. All of these all the shipping companies, Sono, in the trend. Twitter, again, we're long on Twitter. This move, I mean, you gotta love that move there. We know who that is, right? We know who that is. Run, yeah, looks like Run is running. I did put that on the short terms. Let's see. Interesting. We'll see how that turns. Vero continues. We're looking for that bounce to go towards the upside. Waiting for LX. Edit possibly coming back from this consolidation. If it gets through that trend line, it's at 69. Trend line's at 70 or so. That could get interesting. Again, these moves, look at this, look at that candle through that trend line. This is on top, but if that's through, you're talking about a significant gain. That's obviously not a chart to screw around with, but you get the break. There's no question. IMMR as well. All these sort of intermediary tech companies again, right? FLGT, of course, this entry over there on that that Friday open was certainly a good entry. But again, you're looking for a lot more points than that. Let's see. Pretty good stuff, guys. Pretty good stuff. So now what we're looking for, we are looking for trajectory and how to manage our positions, right? Dollar's coming down, continuing to push down. Let's take a look over there. We're not getting any further action over here on the average. We're looking, I talked about it, these two converging trend lines from the breakout pattern, and there's supply down here. You're wondering and asking, are you going to go through those? Because that's what sort of price likes to do, right? Are we going to get through those converging levels of supply? If we push down, then we're now turning this whole situation into, this is risk on dollar up and this is risk on dollar down. I mean, you're fully out of correlation with the dollar, right? And everything is a good thing. So when you think of the market in that terms, then we really don't need to use any of that. UMC coming up to the trend line again. We took this, I mean, this was the bullish semi to enter. Trend line's right there at 1045 or so. Let's see. Let's look at the other semis here. TSM continuing. Let's see. This is certainly, I mean, again, like I said before, all you're doing is the consolidation obviously continued, but this is the trend the breakout idea and target is all the same, right? You can see where it's moving. It's all the same here. GPS bounce. Wouldn't really call it a bounce, but I know what you mean. It's certainly going. It's certainly going. We're in this position. We're in this position, and we're looking for the upside, right? We already entered on Friday. There was in this type of trade again. You have to get into that trade. The probability of a gap here was significantly high. I talked about it a lot. Significantly high. Obviously, you didn't get it, but even the reality of just opening on support here, the buying, is one of those situations where the contracts were so much cheaper to buy Friday compared to this morning, right? That it's just, it no longer has the risk on it, right? As soon as Monday opens, there's no longer the risk of going over the weekend, right? Let's see. I'm curious to how much price action comes in up here, because you're right there. I mean, if this goes right now, we still have quite some time before lunch. If this breaks through the trend line, I would say you put on another 1%. You put on another 1% immediately today. If it breaks that trend line. 80%. Lights continuing. Let's see. This Sono move is getting pretty interesting. That might be a trend line today. 34. I'm gonna remember that. That's an interesting chart. Upwork continues. I put on the new Upwork position this morning because I took profit on Friday. Let's see. I'm trying to get direction on Chinese tickers overall because they're so disconnected. Completely disconnected. Makes it a little difficult. ARK is going here as well. I put the bearish candle here from Friday. Again, if I put the bearish candle, doesn't mean it's going to overturn the whole bullishness of a chart, right? So that's looking very good there. But a lot of this, we know, it's what kind of sucks about the whole going through the ETF space is that it's just all flows, right? It's all flows and not specifically trading what's within the ETF, right? And so some of this is a little, it's hard to actually understand anything here other than just trading it because of the flows, right? When I say flows over fundamentals, this is a good example of that, where everyone's just going into ARK to go into ARK, right? There's not really much else to it. So we'll have to see. XLE now getting through the neckline. I talked about this last week that we should be seeing this increase. It was a little slow come Friday, but now you're through the neckline from this, right? This very long sort of pattern here. This is pretty high confidence in terms of a chart, right? It's going to take a minute, but this move here certainly solidifying that. TMHC at the upper bound of the target now. We're looking for more than that. Let's see. That lit chart. You're almost signaling another one of these. We'll see how we can do that. All right, let's bring this back over here. Let's make a few more. Okay. Brian mentions Disney all the time. That chart has certainly been through a lot. Okay. All right, let's see. One other thing to keep in mind in terms of timing, when stimulus does get through, you might get some of that news selling. We need to be prepared for whatever that looks like in terms of our long positions, because we're going to hold, if there's a day or two this week of take profit, we're going to continue to push those long positions, right? We want to know whether that selling is technical or news based. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that if a lot of this is obviously trading bullish on stimulus and everything else, when that news comes out and if there's some selling that starts, we need to understand whether it's selling that news, selling an event, or whether it's actually supply and demand oriented and we actually have ran out of buyers. We need to be very careful of understanding that, because we want to push long positions further, right? We want to be able to push them into next week, into the week after that. We need to know if the selling is actually supply oriented or just completely news based. So there's going to be some things that we certainly need to keep everything in mind in terms of news. We're not trading the news, but we certainly keep it in mind in terms of understanding supply and demand, right? And this is the sixth day that we're trading to the upside, so certainly need to keep all these factors in mind. And with demand sort of spread, we now are getting a lot of demand into treasuries, right? That's demand that was completely just in equities, right? It was fully equities. Now we do have like $1 trillion of cash out there. I think it's a little bit lower now. I haven't looked at the numbers since like a month ago, but I'm sure it's similar. I don't know, I meant like end of January, but let's see. Bios continuing. That bio bet certainly is paying now. In terms of those positions, probably take those. Probably going to take the bios off on the first downturn. Those are all short terms. Those are all just over the weekend risk positions. So all the bios, again, I don't really screw around with the bios. I take, the whole boogeyman meme comes from boogeyman during the summer on the bios. You go in there, you buy up the contracts, and then you dump them. Peloton, yeah, we should probably mention Peloton. We were talking about that a lot last week. Oops. Down at the trend line, I talked about how this looks. It's one of those very sort of bear flag-esque, but it should not break down. Bear flags, right? You get this is almost perfect bear flag mentality, but then you get the break here instead, and then this would be a technical break. I mean, I guess it's more of a pennant, right? But sort of a breakdown, but you have this trend line that holds it. So the trend line is right here. You can wick down to 144. And the thing to remember here, and the reason why I wasn't. And so this is a great place to pick up a position. I would be picking this up here. It's a good risk support buy, right? There's some people that are going to be a little scared about it down there. If it breaks down, it's going to be obvious, right? And I talked about that on Friday. If this was breaking down, it'd be obvious. And so I would still be looking, just look at the price action over here, right? It's very similar, the way that the price action works. Now, again, we don't do like, oh, history repeats itself. I don't really care. But it's certainly, in terms of this trend, you can see how price will come down in here. There's no reason you can't look to trade something like this. But again, a position like this, you're not buying short terms. You are buying longer, because look at the price move here. You have to hold this position for a month, right? So you need to get if you're going to enter a position, you need to be willing to hold it for a month. Yes, it might break out. If it's going to break out, March I think would be okay. I really mean just like no Februaries here. Now, that's not to say you can't put Februaries on if it's going to be a breakout instead, right? If it's going to be this in action instead, we'll see it. And I would go maybe, depending on people's sizing and accounts, if you have a low amount of capital, then you should be only going towards like Marches. Or if you're the way your strategy is working is you're more short-term risk oriented, then certainly go Februaries and get out of there quick. But I think overall the best thing for everybody would be Marches, and then you look to capture a short-term gain here with Februaries, right? Because you know you're at least going to bounce, and so you can at least use those to cap. You can at least use all of the extra percent gain from Februaries, because it's so short-term, to give you profit to cover any losses that you'll have from pushing that position through on the Marches, right? So, a lot of the times that's what I talk about with a lot of these positions, that you are choosing contracts that are going to cover your downside, right? So if you're creating a gradient of contracts of short terms into long terms, you're using the short term gains to cover anything in the long term, right? It shouldn't be, oh, okay, I'm going to get 100% pop here in a day on February's, and then I'm going to go use that money to go buy some other dumb shit, right? No, that money should be used to cover any downside you get from pushing a position over the long term to get an actual overall gain. That's going to take some time, right? Now, that money can go be put to something else, but you should be aware of the fact that those points are to cover something else, right? And that's where there's like a lot of, this is where like portfolio management becomes so important, because you can obviously be in a situation where you get like a big gain and then you're forgetting about the downside that's happening on some of your other positions, and then you're actually not even gaining anything, right? You have all these short-term gains you get, and then you're losing on all the other positions because they're not doing anything. So, a lot of the times you need to be covering a lot of those downside moves for the future profit, or else you get shaken out, right? If you're in a long-term position and then it never gained anything, you lost the money that you didn't get in terms of over the time, right? So opportunity cost, that money could have been somewhere else. And then also, you're sitting in a position that's losing value, and you could have just got out of it in the first place. So if you're willing to put something over a long term, you got to stick with it and have something to at least cover it, right? Which is why we use different risk profiles. Over the weekend, we put some extra risk on to get some extra gains to protect the longer position there. Not so much, oh yeah, I made 100% in a day. Good job. Looks like we're going here. It's going to be interesting. Again, if you break through the trend line here before lunch, then I expect another percent today on this IWM, the Russell. Book says we're going, so I would expect it. A little bit too heavy on the bids. Not to, I would say. I mean, we're working through the supply right now. If you guys look at the book, you can actually see that we're working through the supply right now. And usually if you're working through it, then you're gonna make it. So in terms of rejections or not, I mean, you're getting a lot of the sellers out right now. So we'll see how many there is to work through, but I can certainly see it. You're working through it and holding the level. So again, you're sort of, all of this right here, this tightening, again, we talk about tightening. Tightening is working through a level of sellers or a level of buyers, right? And then as soon as there's no more, the price will move through, right? So we're either getting rejected because there's too many sellers, or all you're doing is you're taking time to work through all of that supply, and then you're going to make a move. So we're looking for direction here, whether or not there's going to be more sellers or not, but we will see. We've already put a lot of points on here. And it's early. We're almost an hour in. In terms of lunch today, I mean, everything would depend on whether or not we're pushing through this trend line or not. I mean, if you're not, then you're going to be swinging back and forth during lunch. If you go through, then it's going to be a melt-up lunch, right? It's just going to be a melt up towards close. In terms of the S&P and everything, you're just sort of bouncing back and forth. I don't think anyone knows what to do with tech. It's really difficult to, I mean, nobody really wants to be there, but there's times when you got to put liquidity somewhere. I don't really know what's going to happen with these charts. Just don't I don't see much of a future. I mean, in short term. Let's see. Let's go take a look at banks. Bring the banks up to speed. Continuing the move again. I talked about this was like a move you can't miss because it's a little too obvious. When you get back into value, like you can't just sit around and I mean this move here. I mean you just you have to take that trade, right? It's a little bit too much on the table. Now, yes, other people obviously took the trade as well, but a little bit too much to miss there. FLGT did break that high there, so this trade is now turned into what we wanted. So in terms of this move, you're up 40% on the underlying. Nice trade. Good job. Good job. Let's see. What did I say again up here? 588 or so. Again, most recent charts are a lot more bullish. In terms of this trend line, same thing applies, right? Same thing applies. I don't think, where's the other level here? I guess that is the level up there with the trend line. So you have converging. Let me see. Jesus, I can't see my trend line. Bring it back. Okay, well, that's where this is. That's 580, and then the trend line's at 588. If you break that, you're gonna put a ton of points on here. This next level comes in at about 6.5. So if you break through the trend line here, you're gonna put another. I mean, how many percent is that? You're gonna put another like 10% on. So if you break the trend line, you're gonna put another 10% on today. So again, when I talk about it, it's like, oh, is it made too much of a move yet? It's already up 10%. No, if it breaks the trend line, it's going to put another 10% on. So, again, let's stick to the things we know. So that's a great chart from last night. CLNE. Not sure. Again, these utilities and everything that we've been looking at have put these are the value charts, right? Value charts that don't look like value or defensive at all. MWK through the trend line, we talked about it earlier. In terms of this, for sort of managing this trade, again, this comes down to completely your own. You should just turn it. You should just trade this as, okay, I'm going to take profit on a reversal and that's it. This type of trade, it's hard to transition. I wouldn't be like looking to change it. I would just stick into what you got. If you got February monthlies, then you just push it until a reversal comes, right? It'll be clear. It will be clear. Let's see. AMRX, we were looking at it. Let's see. I think, yeah, you'll get 10%. You're going to get 10% on there. You're going to get 10% on there. Unless it's rejected, 10%. So, not going to look at that again. We looked at it. Let's see. You had to break down here. What did I say up there? 17, and I think you got the 17 this way from the break. For sure. Yup. That trend line could come back in. That's an interesting. Home builders, again, we went bullish on home builders over the weekend. We were already in the trade, but we're now up another 8% today. So 8% from the entry over here. Again, these type of moves have been extremely straightforward to enter. If you're not able to get these trades, you got to figure out what you're looking at. Because again, when we talk about entering on these breakouts, they're clear. And also when the exit is clear, the rejections are straightforward. In the rejection, you know whether it's there or not. This is a clear difference between this candle here, right? It's pretty clear. There should be no confusion on the charts like this. And we've made this trade quite a few times. So again, things that we have comfortability with and are less difficulty are important. SQ's still where it was. Let's see, KC. What is the amount of points? It's hard to say what you're going to get up there. Nova. We obviously took that Nova trade. That's turning out very good now. Up another 7% today. See if I can make this chart look a little better. Let me bring this back. Not sure what I want to say. It's probably here, right? Probably right there. Right in that converging spot, right? The converging supply, that's probably where price wants to go. That's another 18%. That's likely where price is going to go. That's tomorrow. That candle would be tomorrow. We'll see if that happens. I would say that's where price is most likely to go. XERS continues. Blink, we're waiting. Some really great price action. So again, there's not really much to do if we've already been in a position. It's hard to do anything new. We're just sort of minding price action, admiring it. Again, the price action we watched here, this is directly on the trend line right now on the daily. You got a perfect wick to the trend line, which confirms, first of all, this trend line. Full confirmation of the trend line. So perfect wick to it. That means we're here. You've got your first level of sellers through that candle that tests. You're looking for that second test now. You know the other test is going to come, right? You know it's going to come. What's the timing? It could be the next 5-minute candle that jumps up there. So you know it's coming now, and so hold on to your lunch pail. Hold on. That kind of move is certainly going to be helpful for all of those charts that need to retrace. This turns the whole market into a whole new bull phase, which is similar to September. September over here, if you remember, we were so close. If instead this candle broke through the trend line, this one, right here, if this broke through the trend line from over here, from the June high, the overextension high, if we broke through here, we would have been in a whole new bull phase. We would have been bullish out of our mind if we broke out of that trend line, but we didn't. And so it turned us into the consolidation phase. It's the same thing with this over here. It's the exact same thing, that if you break through this, you're in an entirely new level of supply. Obviously, you're already in new supply because you're all-time high, but in terms of a trend, this move puts us in completely new territory, and you're gonna go. You're just gonna go. So again, this is a pretty important spot, and if we don't, then again, we're gonna be looking for. we're already anxious enough about reversals. We know there's a reversal coming, and so I think this is a better spot than any. This is a better spot than any to make decisions. So again, we have no problem with the market wants to go one way or the other. We're going to trade it. This might be your spot. This might be your decision, just like back in September. So again, I'm not pumping fear or anything, but just in terms of understanding, if you break through here, whole new bullish game. If you break down from here, you could lose quite a bit of points because you're not as bullish as the market thinks, right? And that's why I talked about news events and things like that. We might want to think about them because they could enter some anxiousness into the market in terms of, okay, well, this thing happened. We were trading because of that. Now we're going to sell it. So keep this in mind. If you don't break through here, you are going to get some questions of, okay, if we couldn't break through, then are we really that bullish? And it's just double-edged, right? It's double-edged, so keep it in mind. And you're going to be able to see it with volatility, right? If that's the case, you'll see it over here. This will creep, right? We know this is lagging, and so you do need to look at the derivatives. you do need to look at the derivative instead. That will creep. They'll be there. You'll see them. You'll see them. Brian mentions Neo going. Are we finally going to get paid on our position? I hope so. I don't want to sit in this any longer. I'm very close. If this doesn't go today, then I'd probably get out of this, because from here, I mean, you're still above your break even, but it's just I'm sitting and doing nothing. So I'd rather use that cash. If this doesn't go today, then tomorrow at open, I'll make the decision to get out of it most likely. Just a little bit. It would almost mean that it's going to come to this trend line to make a decision. So we're going to keep that in mind. So keep us updated on that one. CGen did not break through. Airlines again. So this move again coincides with what we see on that IWM.